A top government whistleblower has just confirmed that the U.S. has aliens and alien spacecraft. Why have they been lying to us for 70 years?
An official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
So what we're going to talk about today is why. Number one, do you believe it? And number two, if it's true, why would the government hide it all these years? And to help me talk about it today, because I don't want it to be just my opinion, I'm bringing in my good friend and YouTuber, Chris Provost. He has a YouTube channel called Provost Park Pass that he does with his wife. And if you're a Disney Parks fan, you probably already know him because he's one of the biggest YouTubers around that does Disney Park stuff. So we're going to bring Chris on. He's been a longtime friend of mine. And so I know he is also kind of a science nerd or loves this sort of stuff about, space and the possibility of aliens and stuff like that. So let's bring Chris on and we'll talk about this. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. So first of all, before we get into the thick of it,
okay,
you're very well aware of what was announced the other day about, this top government official saying that we have actual aliens and actual alien spacecraft.
Yeah.
Do you believe it?
I'm more of a skeptic. I think it's interesting. I think I'm really excited to see what else they have to say. I think you've alluded to this. The only thing is everything this guy is saying, and I forgot his name off the top of my mind, this government official, but it's everything. It's like secondhand account, right? Everything's secondhand accounts. It's people he worked with and giving him this information. And so that always makes me lead to be a little more dubious, but it doesn't mean it's not true.
For the sake of argument, and because this guy seems pretty credible,
okay,
and I think that he would think his sources are pretty credible before he came out and put his reputation on the line,
sure,
because he's got a very impressive reputation.
Yep.
That we'll just say, let's say it is true.
Okay.
Why would the government lie to us? Let's say that Roswell happened in 1947, and then there was another one in New Mexico in 1948. I forget that, but those were sort of the two incidents that kind of started this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why would the government lie to us for 70 plus years?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Why do you think that is, Dave? Why would the government lie to the general population?
Well, this may not be a popular opinion. I don't know, but put in the comments below if you agree or disagree with what I'm about to say. But I was thinking, it's 2023, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because there's a threat of danger. And I don't mean a threat of danger from the craft themselves or the technology. I mean, maybe there's an actual threat of alien invasion. Maybe they're hostile, and maybe they know that if we knew that society would start to panic and markets would crash. I don't know.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
Like, to me, I'm like, the danger element of it, like, for 70 years, Chris.
Yeah,
they've kept it secret.
I think that's an interesting point of view. I don't agree with that at all, but that's okay. that's perfectly fine. I mean,
that's why I brought you on.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we have known about alien civilization or alien technology for the last 70 years. Why would the government suppress that information? I think that you're talking about danger, worry about invasion. That might have been the general reason why I think that maybe the government suppressed that information, maybe in the 1950s and 60s, is because they were worried about that. I don't think that's the case anymore. Like you said, we're in 2023. I think the reason a government would suppress information from the general public is I don't think they're doing it for our benefit. I think the reason they're probably doing that is either money and power, possibly religion. We'll get to religion in just a moment. And they're just trying to exploit this new technology, and they want it for the government. So let's kind of go through my different scenarios. Is that okay if I kind of redo that, Dave? Just review my scenarios.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question about the money one first.
Sure.
Like, if this was the first time we'd heard about it and we found out that 10 years ago this happened, to me that would make more sense because they've only had 10 years to research it. But we're talking 70 something years. What is it, 1947 till now?
Yeah.
We're getting close to 80 years.
I think we're talking about economies here on a worldwide scale, and we're also talking about religion a little bit here. That's going to be intermixed with this. Okay. If they ended up coming out and said, hey, by the way, aliens, there are several civilizations out there. They have their advanced civilizations. They can do space travel. They can fold space. They can do whatever they can. That could have a huge impact on our economy, our world economy, and also as religion. And religion, I think, is a soft reason why they might not want to talk about that. I'll explain in one moment. Well,
I mentioned this in my video the other day. Like, more than half the population believes, like, firmly that there's life on other planets.
Yeah, I think so. I think also, though, if you had an alien race come in here and they've never heard of Jesus or any other deity that you happen to believe in,
complicate things.
That would complicate
they have
things
their
for
own
a lot
God.
of people. They're like, wait,
that would complicate things.
If they came out and if they came out like, hey, we believe in Meterborp, and Meterborp had two fathers and one mother, and he was able. Now listen to me. He was able to hang buckets on sunshine, and he was able to turn all kinds of cool things like this. We'd be like, what are you talking about? But they might believe that. But
I might want to join that religion. You're making a good case.
Yeah, Meterborp is awesome. But people, like, if they...
Great name.
Yeah, I just made that up. So, but if it would be hard for people if we were actually having intelligent conversations with other races and they had no idea about God or any type of religion, it would shake a lot of people's faith. But that's not, I think, the reason why the government really would suppress information. I think the reason why the government would not want to suppress information is they're going to try to exploit it. They would try to exploit the technology. I don't personally believe... I think in the 1950s and 60s, we always thought a spaceship would come here and it would be piloted by some being. I don't personally really believe that. I think if our first contact were probably going to be with a spacecraft, would probably be something maybe run by a computer or something like that, or done remotely in a way, because it's just too hard and too vicious to travel through space, right? Why send a life force when you could send computers or robots and to do all that work for you? So if a ship crashes here, we're going to have some amazing technology, right? Amazing. So far ahead of what we have here, and the government is going to want to exploit that information, and so will other companies. They're not going to want to share it. Let's just take, for example, as crazy as this sounds, when you break it down like this sounds like, let's just say that the only time an alien spaceship ever crashed on the planet Earth, it happened to land in America. Woo! That's amazing. And people are like, oh my gosh. Do you think the government is going to share that technology with other governments? Absolutely not. It's going to hoard it for itself. It's going to guard all that knowledge 100% for itself. It would not share that. Same with other large corporations. If they had access to this, they will not share it. It gives them a huge intellectual and technological advantage. They wouldn't share that. I think that'd be one of the reasons why that they don't want to share that information with the general public, because we would be demanding to see this. I think another reason is, and you talked about this, Dave, it's been 70 years that people have been talking about this, right?
Right.
Right now, if the government came out and says, hey, you know what? Yeah, okay, we lied to you. The last 70 years, we've been lying to you. I think that maybe if they would have done this in the 60s or 70s, maybe people would be like, okay, you did it for our benefit, but now we can know. It's past that point. I think if the government actually shared information, says we've been withholding information from you, there's already tension in our country and around the world with governments. And all of a sudden we come out and we have definitive proof that we can prove that our government is lying to us and withholding information from us. It would cause a lot of, let's just use the word angst. It caused a lot of angst with a lot of people.
In the little clips and stuff that I've seen, this whistleblower, he says that other nations also have this technology.
Grush says the United States is not the only country that has encountered non-human intelligence. He says our geopolitical rivals have their own crash retrieval programs.
We're in a competition with their adversaries to understand this. And it's a multi-decade Cold War that has been under our nose for so long. And, there is no good way to level the playing field and hold other nation states accountable if they're doing unethical or illicit activity as it relates to this subject. And I think the obtuse secrecy is actually putting us in a very dangerous position where a country might make a breakthrough. Let's say it's an adversary of ours. And it is so destabilizing.
The secrecy is the main reason Grush says he is coming forward. He's concerned Congress is being kept in the dark, and it's a matter of national security.
Yeah, there was a documentary that I saw recently. It's just come out. I think I saw it initially on a Joe Rogan podcast. I know the guy that's done it has been a guest, but I think it's called, is it Moment of Contact? And anyway, it's done by James Fox, and he's done several UFO documentaries, but it's about this incident in 1996 in Brazil, where literally thousands of people witnessed this UFO crash, and they have multiple eyewitnesses, seeing aliens, and they all independently gave the same descriptions. And then they claim that they had an FAA controller, or not but one of the controllers for that airport in the area claimed that a U.S. jet flew in unauthorized, landed. They loaded these alien creatures and whatever, artifacts they had on a plane secretly and took off, and, assumably went back to the U.S. And the documentary is, I watched it recently, and it makes a very compelling argument. You're like, wow, because people always say, well, if this was happening, thousands of people would be witness to some of these events. And I'm like, they were.
If that's the case, if that's true, and for the sake of what we're talking about, we're assuming everything you're talking about is true, then we have to assume
for this argument.
Yeah, for this argument. Then we have to assume that the United States must be monitoring us like crazy. Because if something like that happened to Brazil, the Brazilian government is going to be over that immediately. And so for the fact that the United States government can fly down there, pick up that information, get out of there, that would mean it would have to happen before the Brazilian government can mobilize and take advantage of that situation.
They did mobilize. The whole army came into this small town, the Brazilian army. They had one of their officers that apparently transported one of these beings to a hospital because it was injured, and then he died of some mysterious infection a couple days later, and he was only like 22 years old. Like, it's a pretty compelling story. If any of you watching this haven't seen that, I believe it's called Moment of Contact, and it took place in 1996 in Virginia, Brazil. But that shows kind of a collusion between Brazil and the U.S. And why would Brazil just willingly give up this insane technology to the U.S.? That's my point.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
Maybe there was money involved. You know what I mean? To your point on the financial aspect, maybe there was.
Yeah, the reason why are people motivated to do things is the government gets motivated. Right? It's the same thing, right? So why are we motivated? Right. And I'm not trying to be too crass, and I'm not trying to be too pedantic here, but let's just
try to be realistic.
We're motivated by money, power, sex, and religion is a good motivator. Religion does the promise of you do something good, you're gonna get something rewarded later. They use a lot of fear and guilt, right? Those are big motivators. So for us to be able to go into Brazil, we're giving somebody something that they want. Maybe more power.
Yeah,
who got more power out of that? Maybe did they get a lot of money out of that? What happened? What was their motivation factor for giving this up? And I'm not saying that it couldn't happen. I'm just saying that definitely could very well be that we could do stuff like that and make the type of deals, backroom door deals with Brazil for sure. But I think the reason that a government would not want us to know, and I don't think it's because of our best interest. I don't think they're saying, you know what, the John Q. public can't handle it. I think we can handle lots. I think we're very resilient. I think we're very resilient.
I think everybody watching this video will be like, I could totally handle it.
I think so too. I think the reason the government's wouldn't share that information with us is because they have their own personal reasons for gain. And that's either going to be because it's the government doesn't want other governments to have it for power, or it's because they're trying not to worry about the world economy collapsing, or simply about religion. I mean, religion's a great way for people to, and I'm not saying it's a control factor, but it's something that, if everybody clings to some type of hope or belief or religion like that, and you whip that away from them, it does cause a little bit of pandemonium. It causes people to feel comfortable. It causes them to wonder what they're doing. Like, what am I doing here? Do I need to even work anymore? Because nothing matters anymore. Or whatever.
What's the purpose of life?
What's the purpose of life?
I can see that. For some people, that would certainly be.
100%. And I think that's a big deal. And I think also is the fact that if we had some technology that's so vast and so superior to our technology, and we still haven't been able to crack it after 70 years, we're not going to want Russia or somebody else coming in and looking at that technology, because maybe they can crack it and maybe they can start using it against us. And that would be another reason for suppression.
That's a good point.
So, yeah.
So I have two more questions I want to ask you to get your opinion on.
Sure.
One is, let's assume that this is all true.
Okay.
For the sake of argument.
Okay.
How did they keep it secret all these years?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, like, how? That'd be one of my. If I had to punch holes in a plot, that would be one of them. I attack first and say it's difficult to keep a secret, but I mean, you would have to suppress it on multiple levels to not even let people know what they're working on. So you give people new technology and have them reverse engineer it, but you wouldn't tell them where it came from. You would make them believe other things. Right. Like, this is a competitor's. This came from a foreign country. You would lie. There'd be lies and deceptions upon deceptions down the line. So that way, only the top few would understand really what we're working on, and that would be one way. It's misinformation at its finest to confuse people. So that way, people who are so somebody comes out and is a whistleblower is telling their story, might be all lies and fabrication, but they might believe it, and what they've seen is absolutely true, but what they don't know what they're working on. And if you don't know, it's hard to reveal that information. I think that it'd be the only way is you'd have to have misinformation within the company done on purpose, you wouldn't tell. The last thing I would do if I was running a corporation is I would not tell everybody what we're doing, and then say shh, don't tell anybody. I would be like, hey, this is what we're doing, and not really tell them the truth. Like, we're working on a supersonic jet, guys. This is amazing. And we got this really cool part. We got this from this Chinese intelligence. Let's work on it. I would start spreading this information, and I would silo a lot of them.
Keep it secret because we stole it from the Chinese or whatever.
100%. Yeah. And then I would also silo the employees within the other departments. I would not have a lot of cross information going because you would tightly control that. I mean, and that naturally happens anyways in corporate America. You get a lot of siloing anyways, but that's one way.
I'm thinking that would actually contribute, because you're not giving the people trying to reverse engineer this all of the information. Correct. Which would make it more challenging to reverse engineer, which may prolong why it's taken so long to do that. This tiny group of people who actually know the truth. And my expectation is, assuming this is all true, they've prepared for 70 years for this moment. And actually, as many people pointed out in the comments on my last video, this has happened multiple times over the past 70 years where we've had whistleblowers. Yeah. And this guy just seems to have the best credentials of everybody who's sort of been a whistleblower.
I think if that's the case, the first thing they're probably going to do is they're probably going to try to discredit the guy. They're going to try. That'll be the first thing that they would try to do is discredit. Will
that be a sign that it's true, or will that be a sign that?
Yeah. See, if they do try to discredit them, though, that information is not going to come from the government. They're smart enough to know that they're not going to. It's not the FBI or CIA is going to come out.
Good point.
That information is going to come from some other sources, right? It's going to come from other vloggers. It's going to come from other like podcasters. Right. It's going to be a grassroots movement to try to discredit this guy.
Start digging into his background and say he's got a criminal history. And that's what they did to Bob Lazar. You know what I mean?
That's what I think that they would probably try to do is to try to discredit. And if that didn't work, and it was actually gaining traction, then at that point they would have some types of contingencies of what they're going to say. They would. I don't think they would reveal all the truth. I think they'd probably come out and maybe reveal 30% and say, okay, everything you said is true, but it's really only the tip of the iceberg, and we don't know everything. I think that we're
only going to get a tiny piece of it. That's my expectation.
But they would tell us. They would tell us that we're getting the whole pie when we're only getting a slice.
They're going to show us like a meteorite that's sort of shaped like a. Well, it's technically a craft because it carried bacteria from an,
Sure,
and they'll give us some way to describe it. Okay, so my last question for you, and it's the one that I'm most excited to hear your answer on is, do you want it to be true?
That's a fantastic question, Dave. Let me think about that. I want to answer that. I'm ambivalent, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be afraid if it's true. It wouldn't scare me if it's true. But I don't really lean one way or the other on that. I want credible cited sources. That's all, on everything I want. That's what I want. I want credible information for people. I don't want hyperbole anymore. And if this is true, then I want to know how we can use it to make life better for people here. And if it's not true, then I would just like, okay, well then maybe it will be true someday. So it's an interesting hypothesis though to think about for sure.
Well.
That I know that answer's not satisfying, but I don't know what else to say, Dave.
No, it's a good answer. But for me personally, I know you want it to be true because you want a lightsaber. I want a lightsaber. If we can somehow reverse engineer that technology to allow us to more easily travel to the planets and let's say the asteroid belt within our own solar system quickly, then that might help with some of the resources shortages that we have here on Earth.
That's actually, Dave, I'm gonna jump in. If I would like it to be true, but not for if there was a race out there that was able to travel across multiple galaxies, then they're gonna have some pretty cool sources for energy. And I would like.
I'm gonna go visit him.
I would like that on our planet. I think about our planet a lot. I know that we're poisoning. We're hurting our planet, right? We're consuming more than we're. It's like when we go hiking, right? You go hiking, you take all the trash out that you pack in, right? I feel like we're not packing out all our trash on our planet sometimes. And so if we can have a really good energy source that's clean energy that help us to sustain our ways of living and also have minimal impact on the planet, then that's what I want. That's what I would use it for. That's exactly everything that I would want it to be. And so that's what I would really. Well, I know I'm off the subject, so that's all I'm going to say about that.
No, you're actually bringing me right back to tie this all up neatly because I'm going to throw something out at you that just occurred to me as you were saying that to tie it back to your original point, which is if you think about the timing of this, because I saw several people in the comments on my last video, curious about interesting timing, isn't it? And I was thinking, okay, they're making some good points, but just as you were talking, I'm thinking we are at a time when there's a huge push, more so than there's ever been in human history, to get to clean energy, alternate energy sources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem viable. Well, if you look at that financial motivation aspect of it.
Well, yeah, financially, could you imagine?
And you can see that for 70 years, they would suppress some energy source so that the companies that make all the money off of the current energy sources could, milk that. And they're saying, we're not even worried because we got this alternate. Once we run out of fossil fuels, once we run out of, the minerals to make batteries, we'll finally release this technology to those companies. So
that would make sense. I mean, the thing that we have to think about is, OPEC and fossil fuels is going. The most important resource we have right now on our planet is cobalt because everybody's using it for batteries.
Right.
And we're gonna and
it's limited.
It's very limited. It's a finite resource, and it's causing problems because we're not recycling it effectively. We're not doing. I'm sorry, Dave. We're off on subject, but yes.
No. But you're hitting that point that financial, those sort of financial things. If they know, like all along, we're going to serve what we have and let it run out, and make everybody make a ton of money, and then they'll go, oh, and by the way, we have this new technology right in the nick of time. Yeah,
that
would be it.
Well, I mean, that would be a way that a government could say, a way a government could position itself to being a good guy. You can say, hey, you know what? By the way, we do have clean energy, and they came in, and then we'd all be very forgiving. Like, oh, you didn't tell us for 70 years, and but you came in and you did the right thing.
No, we just figured it out.
Yeah,
we've been trying to figure it out. We just figured it out.
Then we'd be like, oh my gosh, you're so good. So yeah, I can see it's all mind warfare.
Yeah, so maybe this is all part of a psyop to prepare us for that.
I know. Well, Dave, it's a pleasure.
Well, Chris, We
Thank you,
appreciate
Dave.
you joining us today. And if you're a fan of Disney or you're going to Disneyland or anything like that, make sure to check out Provost Park Pass.
Yeah, do. Come on over on YouTube and just click on over there and come check over Provost Park Pass. It's not stuff about aliens.
Put a link in the comments below.
But it's a fun channel. It's a fun channel. You like it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Chris. Please, in the comments below, share your feedback, your thoughts. Let us know if you agree, disagree, what your ideas are. And especially if you have any personal experience with UFOs, aliens, or any sort of sightings of that nature, feel free to share those down in the comments below. Let us know. If you've worked in one of these agencies and have a little insight, let us know in the comments. This sort of stuff is very interesting to me. And, on this channel, we talk about, political things, but we try and do things that are a little, not so much the standard boilerplate stuff all the time. Like, this sort of stuff is fascinating to me. If this is true, why is our government lying to us? Well, I'll make more videos on this content as more stuff comes out, if it looks like it's interesting and worth spending a little time on. So if you're curious about our opinions on that stuff, give us a subscribe and hit the notifications so you'll know when I post that again. And just remember, you're amazing. You're awesome, especially since you're watching this video. But there are people who care about you. And we do live in a fantastic time. And this is super exciting. So appreciate all your support. And we'll see you on the next video.